about the new record.
Yeah,
So John O'Donnell said it's the worst band name he's ever heard. Is that
he
correct?
did. He did. He said that we should get rid of it. As soon as I told him, he said, I've just never heard. He was scathing. In fact, he absolutely hated it. I lost a bit of confidence for a second.
How did it come about, the name?
Well, Rob Snarsky came up with the name, and I wasn't crazy about it because if it was going to be Snarsky Band, it should have been Snarsky Band Morrison. No, Snarsky Circus Morrison Band. That's what I would have liked. But then he didn't think that had the kind of rhythm in it, and or the he didn't think it had the right feel. And then I said I didn't like it that much. And then he sent me 20 names of different ideas he had for a band name, and all of them were just terrible. And I didn't want to expend any more energy thinking on it. And I often make decisions where I don't have anything to do with, for instance, the artwork or decisions about font styles or anything to do with covers or um, often videos or stuff like that, because it's a waste of energy because people always have differing views. So in the end, I just went with Snarski Circus Lindy Band, and I've settled into it.
Yeah, I mean, every name is silly until it's just a name that you say over and over again.
It's true. It's true. And it was Andrew McMillan who said to me, from the Australian writer,
I do, yeah.
he said, "Oh, it's a bit annoying because you've got to go a cap on the S, the C, and the L and the B." He said that was a bit annoying,
And no spaces either.
and no spaces either. Although I think that's a bonus.
It's good for the internet, for search engines.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll use that in my next interview.
and, and so, when did you and Rob start working together? Was it the kind of idea that was an idea for ages before you actually pulled the plug?
No, no, nothing like that. You haven't heard the story because he
No.
tells it often. He tells it often from stage, the top of the stage. So I went to see him play at I think it was Camelot in Sydney and Marrickville, and I'd been out drinking during the day with a journalist friend called Jack Marks.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
Yeah, I
know
know him.
Jack? Do you know Jack? Okay, well you know how black Jack is.
Yes.
Jack is black, and black in temperament, black in mood, and black as a writer,
Yeah,
despite the
writes
fact he's
dark stories about Sydney and
yeah
things.
yeah he's actually very amusing, and but I had come to the show, and first of all, Peter Milton Walsh was on, and Peter Milton Walsh, is uh, his songs are morbid to say the least. And then that was followed by the dreary, sad songs of Rob Snarsky, which which led, and I was sitting with Amanda Brown, which led me to sitting there, and this had actually happened. I was actually sitting there crying, sobbing. Well, maybe not sobbing. I was probably being very careful just to have tears rolling down my face. Like there's nothing more ugly than a screwed up face of a woman crying. So I might have had a bit more control. But and he came over and said, "I'm not ever going to see you again. This is just too much. It's too sad. I don't like this. I don't know why you're writing all these sad songs." And then about 2 weeks later, Milton Walsh was playing in Canberra, and he said, "Why don't?" And he and his wife said, "Why don't you come with us? And we're playing, and you can see Rob again." And I don't know why. I was just excited to be traveling in some kind of big car to Canberra where I wasn't driving. And then Rob contacted me and he said, "I hear you're coming to Canberra. Why don't you bring a snare drum and do some brushes?" And I thought that sounded like a really good idea. But it wasn't such a great idea because the brushes didn't work. And I really do feel very sorry for that audience because it was terribly linear and lacking in dynamics, and and it would have been even more dreary and boring. And anyway, then I wanted to redeem myself, of course. So I then said, why don't we have another go where I'll use sticks or I'll play backbeats. I was playing traditional brushes,
Yep.
that sort of stuff. And then that was it. We started playing, and it's a marriage made in heaven. It really is. We're absolutely so suited to each other. And now I've encouraged him to write faster songs, and that's my role in life, Nathan, to have him to have him write some more upbeat, up-tempo tunes.
I love how self-referential the EP is as well. They're all kind of, songs about you guys.
Yeah, they are really. Yeah.
Do you think
Well,
that's be-
that's
do you think that's because you
sorry.
do you think that's because you were so clear that, enough sad songs
Oh
more.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. I've made it quite clear that. But look, it's so funny because I wrote that song, um, uh, uh, the sleep if you sleep with me, the sleep with me song. I know I've forgotten the title. Uh, uh, since you slept with me, everyone wants to sleep. Since I slept with you, everyone wants to sleep with me.
Yep.
Since I slept with you, everyone wants to sleep with me, right? So I wrote that lyric. It was a joke. So then I wrote another kind of like fun song called Always, Always, in the great tradition of songs that have the same word twice, like Louie Louie. And I could think of a lot more if I had time. And uh, anyway, when I got that song back from him, we haven't recorded it yet. It is the saddest song you've ever heard. The saddest, slowest, but most absolutely gorgeous. Like the melody is to die for. It's absolutely beautiful. It's called Always, Always. But this was meant to be an upbeat, up-tempo song, and it's turned into the most tragic piece of work
He
ever.
can't help himself.
No, no, he can't. He can't, Nathan.
You mentioned Amanda before. I really like the Cleopatra Wong EPs.
Oh, well,
Ha-
that's so
yeah.
so kind of you because I think I think we only sold like 682 copies, and at the time, and basically it was practically ignored. But she's not happy with it.
Oh, why is that?
She doesn't like her vocal. She really does not like her vocal on that record. I suppose because her vocals changed over the years, and that was the first record. Oh, they were the first song she ever wrote, of course, and recorded. But I love that record,
Yeah.
even though it's so overproduced by Mark Moffat. So do you know who Mark Moffat is? He was the producer of
Yeah.
both those EPs, right? Okay, so Mark was just coming off the back of Treaty, where he'd produced the original Treaty, but then that was set off to that guy, whose name I forgot now, who did the remix.
Yeah. Gavin Campbell, is that the guy?
No,
No.
no, and we could look it up after,
Yeah.
and and
Oh,
then
it wasn't Rob Gooch, was it?
yeah, it was Rob Gooch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Great.
well done,
Brilliant.
Nathan.
Got it.
Wow, oh, you're on it, man.
Yeah. My
I
trivia
don't know
brain runs deep.
you look young too, and 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 anyway, so he was really kind of I'm trying not to use the word resentful because in case he listens to this, but he was resentful that that he had that Robert got all the credit for it because it was a brilliant remix, of course. But when Mark had put down the original tracks, right? So you can understand it. Anyway, so when we were the next cab off the rank practically. And so it's, like they're all my parts, but it's all, I had to play into this. They used to play, there was this period where we used to play into this kind of software. It was all the rage for a year or so. You'd play into it and then they'd quantize everything you did. So it was perfect, you know. And I was playing it to Shane O'Mara the other day in my Holden. We were driving to a gig. Shane O'Mara's in Rob Snarski's band. He's a Melbourne bloke.
Yeah.
He used to be. Yeah, you know who he is. If you nod occasionally, Nathan, that would help.
Oh, sorry.
And 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 he was going, we were just going, wow, like we were playing Thank You. I'll tell you why we were playing Thank You. I really love Thank You. It's a great song, but we're playing it because Amanda is going to be doing a gig at the Sydney City Recital Hall on the 30th of June, and the SnarskiCircusLindyBand is supporting.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so the Sydney City Recital Hall are bringing the 8 guitarists together from her album, and Shane O'Mara is one of them. So he's being brought up, and so's actually Danny Whittingham from Brisbane is one of them, but he can't make it because he's got another gig. So Graham Lee, who's in our band, is being brought up as well. So almost all our band is being brought up for Amanda's, and we're supporting. So it's like a win-win for us. So it's a great gig, a huge gig. Yeah. So anyway, what am I saying? We can do Thank You. We can do a version of Thank You. Well, that was meant to be a big surprise, but I guess it's not now. But I don't know. I don't know how many people listen to your podcast.
Probably not the same audience. So I've been reading a lot about 70s Brisbane of late. That must have been a very weird time to be, because it seems like it was so fertile artistically, yet it was so repressed with cops and corruption and everything. What was it like as a young artist coming up in that environment?
Well, there were two streams that, because I was acting for quite a while.
Yeah.
And also living with a bunch of actors, people like, you're not from Brisbane. Where are you from?
No, I'm from Newcastle. I live in Sydney.
Newcastle.
Yeah, I live in Sydney, but I grew up in Newcastle. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really like Newcastle.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. In the early 70s, and that were my most formative years, I was living with Jeffrey Rush and an actor called Billy Brown, who's now deceased, and another actor called Trevor Stewart, and a bunch of musicians. And we hung out with the radical left, and it was post the Vietnam War demonstrations and March for Civil Rights, and in particular Black Power and civil rights for Indigenous people, and the state government and the police were so terribly oppressive, and the right to march had been banned, and so the subculture of art really flourished as subcultures do when there's an overriding authoritative power above them. And I think Brisbane's countercultural scene really thrived. I mean, you can particularly see that with the advent of punk. So I was playing drums in the mid 70s and acting, but I really didn't. I had to make a decision, and it was punk. The political power of punk, as I saw it, and the fact that punk was bringing the fight to the streets, really, because the fight was outside the venues, and a lot of those boys in punk bands were particularly, that in my view, were particularly brave the way they stood up to the cops, and and in an artistic way by going out and playing music and you know and being shut down at gigs and all that sort of stuff. It was powerful, I think.
Yeah, that happened a lot, didn't it? Like they would basically try to shut down every live show
Oh
around.
yeah, yeah. There were really interesting bands like the Leftovers and Razor, and look, there's quite a few. See, I suppose we're influenced by the Saints, but I think we were really just terribly, because they wrote such great songs about Brisbane, like Security City and Stranded. Um, but I think the overriding factor was that we were always trying to change the political scape, because we knew that the cops, we were working down the Fortitude Valley, we knew the cops were corrupt, and we knew the government was corrupt. We just knew that they were, foul.
Yeah.
We could see it, and as women, when we were picked up, the sexist language that was thrown at us, and it was just despicable. But also in the 1973 and 74, I worked in the Aboriginal and Islander Legal Services, so social worker, and I'd seen close up extraordinary racism. And I travelled all over Queensland, and I just, when you see it so clearly, the racism that Indigenous people suffered and still suffer, of course, but in Queensland at that time, it was just disgusting.
And you returned to social work after the go-betweens, didn't you? Like, I suppose with the Support Act and things like that.
Yeah. So I had a child in 91, and I guess that changed how my life. Amanda and I had Cleopatra Wong, but we both had children, and it was impossible. It was absolutely impossible to tour. We tried with children, but I can't tell you how awful it was. But anyway, so we stopped doing that, and then I had to find, um, ways to make a living. And for about 20 years, I worked in community music, running all sorts of events all over Australia, like drum pageants at Rockhampton, or parades in Beachport in South Australia, or Mount Isa. I did stuff up there, like all over, really. Um, and I also got involved with the copyright industries, because I was trying to sort out the go-betweens.
Oh, is that how you got
The
in
go,
PPCA?
yeah, I became absolutely obsessed with understanding how copyright worked and wanting to change things. And I'm not going to go into that now, because it's too complicated and it involves federal legislation, and I wasn't successful. I did change some things though, particularly in PPCA. I was very effective there in making sure that artists get a distribution of the fees that are collected for the use of the sound recordings. So I was successful in that, but
Amazing.
I can't go into why, but I got into that because I was trying to sort the go-betweens contracts. And then I was on that board, and it was 1998 now, and some people in the industry started up Support Act, and they knew I had a social work degree, and they asked would I work for 3 hours a week in setting it up and developing that charity. And I probably worked for 3 hours a week for at least 5 to 8 years. And then it was like 10 hours a week. Then it was 12 hours a week. It was never full time. Even during COVID, it wasn't full time. But during COVID, it changed substantially, obviously, because so much money was given to the organisation by the federal government. But
Did that make it
I left
easier?
all
Like, did
on.
COVID
Oh,
actually like shine a spotlight on the kind of inequalities for artists?
um, I think COVID shone a light on the inequalities for all sorts of different careers.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but the federal government was very helpful in providing an income not an income, a payment to at least help artists in some way. It was great, really. But at the end of in April 21, I just gave every job away. I just said, I'm not doing any more of this. I'm not doing any more work. I'm just going to concentrate on playing. You know, I really had loved all the work I did in industry, and but I was done, and I all I wanted to do was get back to playing, and some ways I regret that I didn't do that earlier, but you know, I've had luck with playing with Rob, and I've had luck with other gigs as well. You know, I've been doing stuff overseas as well. I've had a lucky run over the last few years. So I've been earning money, but I may not, if I'd stopped work, been earning any money. And so you've got those sorts of things to balance out. If you can understand the dilemma that I was facing
Oh,
about wanting to
absolutely.
have one last hurrah at playing music again, and getting good on the drums again, and getting strong again before I die.
No, you've still got decades and decades of live music ahead of you.
No, I haven't, Nathan. You have to know that. I don't actually. But it's sweet of you to say so.
And what was the kind of catalyst for you wanting to jump back into music? Did anything like spawn that, or did you just kind of
Well, just my mortality, just,
right?
you know, just realizing that I you know, probably didn't have, you know, you see people after 75, you can definitely see a huge physical difference. You know, I am 70, you know, and like I can see when I see my friends who are 75, I can see the difference. So I can see the run I've got, you know, I can see that race I'm on, and I'm racing on that race now.
And
And I've been
drumming's so
lucky to.
physical.
Well, it is and it isn't. Of course, with Rob's songs, it's not so physical because it's slow, but it's very, very, very focused. And the focus it's hard, and I've got to practice all the time. I mean, I go to a studio, I go to Soundworks in Marrickville all the time to practice, to keep myself together, to keep myself loose and everything. But the fast songs, I don't have the speeds I used to have, because you've got to be playing fast to play fast. And when I was overseas, I was having to play some fast songs. I had to sit down for 3 or 4 weeks beforehand and just play those fast songs, you know, every day to build up the tempo, you know. And it's good now because, you know, there's a couple of fast songs in Rob's set, and hopefully there'll be more fast songs coming up. Um, and you know, they're a breeze for me now, because, you know, I've built up the stamina to so that hurts a bit, you know. My arms burn a bit after. It's my feet and not, you know, my legs and my feet hurt and are tight for days. If I have a run of 3 gigs, my feet and my calves hurt for days. And
Oh, it's, you know, 3
yeah.
gigs in a row is a
So,
lot.
well, it's not really, when you think about the tours the Go-Betweens used to do. You know, we'd be on the road for 9 months, 5, 6 gigs a week, and
Jeez.
discussing drives. Yeah, but you don't see those young bands. That's what they're doing. Maybe that's why I've got longevity now, because I did have that break. I mean, I was in all those community music shows I was doing. You know, I was directing all the time, and sometimes I'd sit on the drums, but not a lot. But I was directing. You know, I was directing there more than playing.
Right,
Yeah,
like a conductor kind of thing.
yeah, just like a conductor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's your favorite period of the Go-Betweens in terms of musically and also memory-wise?
I've got two favorite periods. One is the before Hollywood period,
Yep.
because I think I was at my peak then, and that was before the producers came in and changed the way I played. So it's my playing so authentic and unique and original and fabulous. And also, Robert and Grant. I'm just laughing because I was saying something like that to Shane O'Mara the other day, and Shane said, "Yeah, that was the thing about you Go-Betweens. Like everything you ever did was like the most brilliant." Grant would be saying, "I wrote the most fantastic song. I sat down last night and so I wrote 3 hit singles." And Robert would be saying, "Oh yes, these songs are so great." That's what you do. You Go-Betweens all do that, and I've just done it again. But you did ask me.
No, and
but
I agree though. The drums are so important to like that record in particular.
and my other one is when Amanda joined with Tallulah.
Yep.
And see, if you listen to that, so much of what the rhythm section does, we're playing with her, in the Clark Sisters and Jack Kerouac and other songs, we're playing the same parts as her. When she's going, da da, da da, I'm doing that.
Yeah, you do that in
Where
a lot
she,
of the Go-Between songs, kind of play with
yeah,
the melodies rather than it's great.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's the
yeah,
sound of the Go-Betweens.
yeah, yeah. Probably until the last album, which is why the last album was so successful because because I wasn't allowed to do that anymore.
Well, in that
But
documentary, you all sound so unhappy by that point.
yeah, we were pretty unhappy by that point. But well, yeah. So Tallulah, before Hollywood and Tallulah, yeah, they were nice times. Oh yeah, and having Amanda in the band was so much fun. It really was. It was just so much fun. We had so much fun together. We really did.
Yeah, I was actually wondering because you said Amanda was with you when you first went to see Rob when he then asked you to bring the snare in. Was there any idea of getting Amanda in this band, or was she working on her solo record at the time?
No, 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 no. See, Amanda's had no interest really has no interest in playing live because she composes all the time.
Yeah, right.
Did you know? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's absolutely inundated by work, composing for film and television, and she works all the time, every day, sitting at her computer, writing cues for movies or TV. When you go around, she's got screens and keyboards and stuff. It's all happening.
wow.
So she wouldn't have ever considered playing live. And that record took a long time for her to make, and I'm sure she thought about going live, but it was very kind of the director of programming, Stuart Rogers, to ask her to do that job. And the gig on June 30.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she now she gets to do that live.
Yeah, and that'll be so interesting because did you say the different like the 8 guitarists are all going to be like
They're all
thank
going to be there.
wow.
Yeah, they're all going to do a tune each, and Amanda and I are going to do "Thank You" with Shane, and I don't know. Oh yeah, I suppose it'll be Jonathan because she's using Hamish Stewart and Jonathan Schwartz as her rhythm section. I don't know if you know them.
No, I don't know
Uh,
those
they're,
guys.
they're, they're jazzers, so they're beautiful play. Like you're talking about the cream de la cream of players. They're beautiful, and they always play together, so they're very sympathetic players. So she used them on the album, so she's going to have them, and I'm playing with Dan Kelly. Um, he's our bass player, but Dan doesn't make the gigs all the time because he plays with Paul Kelly, and Paul Kelly's always on the road.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Yeah, so is he going to be
maybe
playing the Melbourne show with you? Is that what's happening?
tomorrow into Saturday. Yes,
Right, yeah,
I'm
right.
so excited. It's it's a matinee at 3 o'clock, and yeah, yeah, we're only doing a matinee at 3 o'clock because I don't know why. Because we only played Melbourne recently, frankly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't go back too often when you're just an alternate cult band.
And ha- and you
It's a bit
mentioned
like
it.
having a it's a bit like having an alternate cult podcast, Nathan.
It is, yeah. Can't go on the road too often. Speaking of alternate cult things, did you
Mm.
play in an all-female punk band in Brisbane before Go
Yeah, called
Betweens?
called Zero, Zero.
Yeah, did you play on any of the tapes? Because I found a bunch of tapes that were on like some forum, like just downloaded bootlegs, like tapes from that, but it seemed to be kind of slightly different thing, had electronic drums on it or something.
Where did you find that?
Oh, some old blog that had like it was basically explaining what the band was, and it had the
Okay,
downloads.
so when I left, so interesting you should ask me about this because I've got another story about this.
Yeah,
So
go.
when I left, Zero became XERO because I left to join the Go-Betweens, and then
Right.
they really changed. They became an electronic band.
Yeah,
Now,
that's what I heard.
Arena Lucas was the singer-songwriter from that band, and she moved to Hobart, and her and I are playing together at Dark Mofo on
Whoa,
the 10th and 11th of June. Yeah, so
that's wild.
she's got like we're doing, I think it's 11 songs that she has tracks to, that she sings and plays keyboards to, and she's got film to, and I'm playing drums. So that's and we haven't played together for 40 years.
Wow, that's so
So
cool.
it is cool. And it was Ben Salter who organized that.
Yeah, yeah, I know Ben Salter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if I know him, uh, but I'm getting to know him now, obviously by emails. But I don't know if I know him.
Yeah, he has great records himself.
Yeah, yeah. I've listened to some now. Yeah. So that's very exciting, and that's coming up. Well, that's coming up next week. When are you going to get this? When are you going to get this out?
Probably next week.
Very good.
Yeah, I'll get I'll top and tail it with all the dates and everything.
You'll have to you'll have to cut out all that bit in the
Oh, I
beginning.
will. Yeah, I will. Don't worry. I'll edit.
You'll
I'll
have to
edit
do a
it.
bit of it, and then you have to send it to me, and I'll put it up on mine.
Yeah, we'll do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Yes,
What are your?
that's
Oh,
why I got
sorry.
the lighting right.
I can see. Yeah, I didn't get the right in.
I'm in a hotel room in Melbourne.
Oh, are you? Yeah, I wasn't sure
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
you
yeah.
live in like the
I mean,
Marrickville
yeah.
area, do you?
No, I live in I
In the
live in
west.
Clovelly.
Oh,
I
do
know I
you?
live in
Nice.
Clovelly. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
driving
It
out to a
is.
practice room in Marrickville every day.
At least not every day, maybe at least 3 days a week when I'm in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 3 days a week. Yeah, I drive across the road down Gardeners Road. It's not that far
Yeah,
down
I
Gardeners
suppose.
Road. Yeah, it's quite quick and it's worth it. Yeah.
What are your feelings
I
about?
go
Oh, sorry.
on.
What
Go
are your
on.
feelings about Go Betweens Bridge? That must have been a weird thing when that was
No,
floated.
I don't know why it's weird. It
A
wasn't
toll
weird.
a toll bridge named after your band?
I didn't know it was a toll bridge. I didn't realize it was a toll bridge, mate. It was only after it was set up, and then everybody started going, do something about the tolls. No, like doing all that. Like, I'm going, what? Tolls? Anything about tolls? Come on. I don't know. I mean, like, come on, you've got to take the
Oh,
little things that come your way. But I mean, the great thing about the bridge, Nathan,
yeah.
was that we were invited up there by the city council, Amanda and I, and Robert Vickers was invited. I think they paid for his ticket maybe to come over. I
Right.
hope so. I think so. I think they paid for ours definitely to come up. And I hadn't spoken to Robert since the breakup.
Robert
And
Forster.
so yeah, and so we arrived, and then Robert and I and Amanda and Robert Vickers and Adele and John Wilstead, that all the different people from different times of the Go-Betweens. So it wasn't just the classic Go-Betweens lineup. There were other people there,
Yeah.
and but then Robert and I got to walk across the bridge together, just the two of us, and we caught up on everything. We caught up, and it was really endearing, and and quite poignant to finally catch up on our lives and be able to face one another and talk in a civil, humane way.
So literally water under the bridge.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's so nice, and it's so nice that that kind of brought you guys back together again.
Yeah, well, so that's why when everybody was going on about the toll, Nathan, when they're all going on about the toll, I was going, oh, a toll, like really rolling my eyes.
You should at least get royalties for it. A little
Like, yeah,
cut every time someone
no.
drives over.
The really great thing is the bridge goes across to the Billy Brown Theatre, and Billy Brown was one of the guys that I lived with, one of the actors.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
who I see, yeah, it is cool. I really love that. I just think it's just amazing.
Yeah, that one little share house in Brisbane is like
Yeah,
got these cultural institutions named after people who live there.
yeah,
And you
that's
said you
right.
lived with Jeffrey Rush in that same house.
Yeah, Jeffrey Rush lived there, and then we went overseas together, and he went to a Lecoq Mime School in Paris, and I was kind of wandering around Europe and doing different stuff, and I used to drop in at Paris and stay with him, and then we moved back to I moved back to Brisbane, and he moved into Auchenflower Terrace in Brisbane and lived there for a while. Yeah, so we shared houses for, I don't know, 8 years, probably on and off.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so,
He's very, very, very creative actor.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what's next for the band? Is there another record on the way? A full-length album, perhaps?
Well, we've still got to finish touring this one,
Yep.
and that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to see what I'd like to do, but I don't know. I was thinking about it just today. What I'd like to do is just record like 5 tracks and then put it all out as an album with those other tracks.
Yeah, well,
But I
people
don't
do
know if
that.
that's, yeah, I think that's what we should do. Do that because, um, it, yeah, I just think we should do that.
Yeah, I agree. You should.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
So
your time.
I haven't talked to Rob about it yet, and Shane did all the engineering and producing in his own studio, and we never paid him a penny,
Well,
Shane O'Mara, yeah. So there's that as well. Certainly he got to sing the song "Since I Slept with You, Everybody Wants to Sleep with Me," which was, I suppose, a real bonus, seeing it's such a great song.
and there's a song with his name in the title as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And yeah, thanks for reminding me. Good one.
yeah. Well, thank you
Well,
so much for your time, Lindy. It's
yeah,
been
yeah,
absolute pleasure.
yeah. No, it's been a real pleasure too. I didn't realize you're in Sydney.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll see each other face to face sometimes.
We will, yeah, hopefully. I'll,
Okay.
I'll come and see your band and yell
Yeah.
out
Well,
more sad songs.
you, you need to save my number,
Oh, yeah,
that
I've got it
my
down
phone,
too.
and I'll save yours, and then you can text me and say you want to come, and I'll put your name on the door.
Oh, that would be great. Well, thank you so much for your time again.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
All right,
See you
cheers.
later, Nathan.
Yeah, see you later. Take
Bye.
care.
Are we hanging up now?
Yeah, I'll just stop the recording.
Okay.
It's always so
All
awkward.
right. Yeah. All
Bye.
right. So listen.